The Sports Hit List presents Smoking Mirrors with Declan Krogman and the Polius Brothers, Greg and Stefan, breaking down the biggest news in sports, giving you the stories behind the story. Here for all the smoke, all the time, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome everyone here to Smoking Mirrors right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Presented by the Sports Hit List. I'm your host, Declan Krogman. As the music fades out here, alongside Greg and Steph Polius. Steph, excuse me. I guess we got the Pirates memo today on accident. I don't know how that happened.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I mean, this isn't a pirate hat. This is a Panther hat.
I can't even tell. What is that? Oh, gotcha. I didn't know if you had a Pirates hat. Not that I wouldn't recognize Pirates hat.
I mean, the
I could not tell.
The piece are on point, though.
Yeah, maybe it's because I messed up my camera. I can't see the same. I don't know. But I wore an Andrew McCutchen jersey because, Greg. Anyway.
That has long since died. I no longer have the Andrew. I don't play the outfield anymore. I don't have the comp anymore.
Weight
it's still
as well.
Cool, though. It was fire though.
You know what? I would tell you some obscene things, but we're on air, so I'm gonna leave it at that.
I can get away with it.
I'm wearing my Auburn Cam Newton jersey. It was Spirit Week this week at work, so it was Jersey Day today. I decided to break out the old school Cam Newton jersey.
That's fire. Back when you wore number 2.
Yep.
Yeah, I wore this because I like it.
Marty approved.
Damn straight he did. He just got watered earlier too.
I mean, how was everybody's weekend?
It was good. I got to see you guys. Jeez. Not on Zoom. We all played in a can we get that regular other camera back? I don't know. Did we mess with this? There we go. There we go. I think our weekend was pretty good. We all got to hang out together. We played in a little scrimmage. Garrison hit the game winner. Greg coached because his knee. But yeah, I think how was everyone else's weekend?
Greg?
I mean, outside of what seems like never-ending schoolwork, it was nice to get back out on the field and after over a year. So that was cool. But I mean, the baseball talk is coming. But the most important news
I had a good weekend. Oh, I want to talk about my weekend. Like,
my bad, bro. My bad.
It's cool. You're just trying to move ahead. All right, cool. So I'll be quick so you can do your thing. My weekend was good. I was on the field with you guys. It was great. It has been a year. It was nice to get back to it. Playing baseball during the pandemic and taking those precautions is a different beast for me. But it was nice to get reacclimated. Other than that, my weekend was really nice and relaxing.
Yeah,
that's me.
That was a nice transition, Greg, by the way, before that.
Yes, I'm glad you were able to get that
in later. But go right ahead.
It was. Thank you.
No problem. I'm glad you could get that off, bro. But in probably the biggest football news in the last week or so, Drew Brees retired.
Yeah, that was yesterday. While we were on the field. We didn't even have an idea.
Yeah.
For me personally, I wasn't shocked by it. He looked like he was done on the field in that playoff game, especially in the latter half of the season. What did you guys think about the retirement itself? Did you see it coming or no?
Yeah, I mean, I did because at a certain point, when he's on the field with his kids, I think everybody was kind of confused as to why it took so long. I know on the hit list on Wednesday, we had mixed feelings whether he's going to retire or not. I thought he did. I thought he would. He did. And the significance of the retirement, I think, is he wanted to retire on March 15th, exactly 15 years to the day from when he signed with the New Orleans Saints. So that probably was just his plan all along. But I think he made the right decision. And, kudos to Drew Brees. He had a great career.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it didn't have the pageantry of like maybe a la Dwayne Wade going out, like some of these major figures in our like lifetime that you see as like athletes we've seen come up. It's nice to have that. I'm sure the send off, but we could see it coming with his gameplay. It was just a matter of time, and the significance of him retiring on 15 years to the day. Great, and I think that's good for Drew Brees. He gets to do it on his terms. As long as it's on your terms, I feel like that's the best way to do it, to go out.
Definitely.
I would think so.
And, with the retirement, there was some controversy that came up because, Taysom Hill got a contract extension. However, there's not only just in the sports hit list, but fans in general, there's a lot of mixed emotions when it comes to Taysom Hill and his contract, because people feel like he doesn't deserve what he's being paid. He's nothing more than a gadget player. He's not a real quarterback. He's better off at a tight end. There's a lot of criticisms levied against him. What do you guys think about and before we even, I ask you guys your thoughts. For those of you that don't know, it was essentially a 4-year, $140 million contract. Initially off the bat, that sticker shock for a backup QB.
Tell them why it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but tell them why it's not what it seems.
Okay. So, yeah, it's sticker shock because you're like, why is this backup QB getting $140 million? But the essence is it's essentially a 1-year deal because the rest of the contract is voidable year by year. And they not only are the Saints in cap hell, like they had like a negative cap number, I believe, at one point. But this deal only guarantees Taysom Hill about maybe $13 or $14 million this year, and then he can be cut next year. And so they're not on the hook for the rest of that money. Sometimes I feel like NFL contracts are like paper mache, unless you're talking about guaranteed money, the rest of it doesn't matter. It could dissolve away.
Yeah. And quick shout out to Anthony Diaz. He just broke the news. Jonnu Smith, tight end who played for the Tennessee Titans, is now signing with the New England Patriots.
Ew! Oh, come
that's
on!
So weird.
No, it's not weird. That's upsetting.
Really?
Because the Jets haven't had a good tight end in about 10 years.
Yeah,
and it would have been nice to.
A lot of free agents that the Jets had their eyes on are completely off the market now. Wow.
I wouldn't say.
A lot. I mean, Aaron Jones,
a lot.
Aaron Jones. I would say a good chunk.
No. So you have to be clear. The free agents Jets fans have their eyes on isn't always the free agents the Jets have their eyes on.
And that goes for fans and front offices in general. But yes, 100%, you're right. But some nice targets there have since left the market, both defensively and offensively.
Yes.
And shout out to Travis, who Travie Bad Takes, who for some reason can't get it through his head that he keeps saying the pageantry, like this is Sean Payton's ego in having to give Taysom Hill this deal. And if we take a step back and look at this deal holistically, this deal is really not that big of a deal. I was trying to avoid that.
I didn't want to say it too.
No, I didn't. But it came out that way. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it has as much to do without the player, but the point is teams have to find strategic ways to save money. I mean, look at what the Bucs did with Brady. They gave him a 4-year extension. Do I think Brady's playing till he's 45, 46 years old? No, I don't think he is. But what that deal was essentially it's a year-to-year deal because all the years after are avoidable.
It's cap wizardry. That's exactly what it is.
Brady's 43. I think he'll play till 45, 46. He's always wanted to play till 45. Giselle doesn't want him to play till 45. If you think that's what
to me, the length of the contract is just for you to move money around, right? Because it's really, like you said, it's year to year. So for them, the cap space is important this year. So all the money that is guaranteed, or not even guaranteed, but all the money that's in this deal is pushed to other years that are avoidable. So ultimately, you are just allowing yourself more the ability to like flex, the spending power you have this current year, or the upcoming year, which is amazing. You end up with allowing yourself to be able to take that or get to sign players, whether it's free agents or, reing up with guys and signing guys to contracts that are pivotal to your team. So I think it's great. They did an amazing job down in Tampa Bay. But even speaking about, Drew Brees and Taysom Hill rather, that is major because yes, he's going to be the starting. To me, he's going to be the starting quarterback. Like
I don't agree with that.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's going to be Jameis. Yeah,
I honestly, I think Jameis to me is the answer, but I look at Sean Payton and how he views the skill set of Taysom Hill, and I have a hard time seeing it being automatic. Jameis Winston's going to be behind center.
I'd say definitely won't be automatic no matter who they go to.
Yeah,
there's going to be a huge thought process behind this. Going back to Brady quickly, and then we'll hit up on Taysom Hill once again. The thing that I've learned, and I think a lot of people have learned, when it comes to Tom Brady contracts, it's never what it seems. You got to look at the big picture. Go within the riffraff, kind of really focus on what this means. It's like the third time he's done this in his career. They're restructuring the deal to allow for more free agents to come in. And in this case, it was just to allow the Super Bowl band to get back together.
Which is smart.
It's absolutely smart. Absolutely smart. It's a lot easier to do when you have, you're the only quarterback whose wife makes more money than you.
That's
money's not an issue,
Yeah, money's not an issue. Money's never really been an issue in his career because his wife's worth $500 million. Yeah. So it's very easy to defer money.
He's known as Giselle's husband in Brazil, which is a true story. As far as
Manny just as far as like free agency, I'm sorry, Manny just let us know in the comments. Shout out to Manny. Kyle Long is coming out of retirement and he's going to talk with the Raiders and Chiefs.
So Kyle Long coming out of retirement, I saw that, but I didn't mention it because I thought this was kind of news from last week that Kyle Long was coming out of retirement. Mm-hmm. But the news I think here, and shout out to Manny, of course, is that he's meeting with the Raiders and the Chiefs. Because I know a lot of people automatically assume that, okay, he's coming out of retirement. Looks like he'll go back to the Bears or he'll go back to the team he started with. Whereas now he's kind of, switching it up here, and he's going to look for to go to some AFC West teams. So I think that's interesting.
I mean, I do think it's interesting, especially with the Chiefs releasing both their tackles. I think it's a good place for him to end up. But does he still have it is the question,
Yeah. And Howie Long, the Raider connection is, according to, Manny in the chat, his pops played for the Raiders. So that's definitely something to think about. Whereas you could go to the Chiefs and now they have an opening at tackle.
Yeah. As far as, now we, talking free agency, transition there. I'm going to ask a Jets-Giants question in a second. But before we get to that, Aaron Jones re-up with the Packers. Did you guys see this coming?
No.
I didn't. No. I didn't.
If I did, I didn't think it was going to be for this price. And he got it for relatively cheap. And you know what? I think this has a major connotation here is that Aaron Jones thought that he was going to get more money, and his camp thought he would get better offers in free agency. That wasn't the case, and he went back to Lambeau.
Hold on 1 second. I need to address Travis in the comments.
Oh boy,
because clearly reading comprehension is not a thing, and he says. And again, what Greg Police is not seeing, when creating cap space, you move base salaries to sign-in bonuses or roster bonuses, which does not count against the cap. The reason it's Payne's ego at work is because he's determined to prove this guy is the next Steve Young. The Saints had other ways to restructure this deal. If you would have read, Travis, this is where I say comprehension matters. If you would have read, you would have seen that he has a base sign bonus of 9.8. And then he has a roster bonus of $1 million, and then another roster bonus, and that's the only money he's making. This has no guarantee of anything of him becoming a starter. It's just the money being shifted around. So, to your point, this is literally roster bonuses and sign-in bonuses. Anyhow, back to Aaron Jones. I had to get that off. Sorry.
Yeah. And I think, and again, reading the comments, because, we're very interactive with that on our show. Manny's saying that he thought Jones were going to the Jets, was going to the Jets or the Steelers. I think the Steelers would have been a great fit for him.
I absolutely think the Steelers would have been a better fit for him.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jets would have been, I didn't see him going to the Jets, but I saw the noise to the Jets, if that makes sense.
I don't think about better fans. As far as him going to the Patriots, I think Cam Newton's going to utilize him very well. He has the opportunity to be a major part of that offense. I don't think that.
Talking about Johnny, right?
Johnny Smith.
Yeah.
It was John you were talking about, right? I'm sorry.
No, we were talking about Jones.
I thought we went back to John.
Nah, we could get there. But the only reason I think all of us and a lot of fans didn't see Jones going back to the Packers is because of A.J. Dillon.
Yes.
Yeah. And now Jamal Williams is a free agent. Anthony Diaz brings up a great point. Is that somebody you see the Jets going after?
I mean, I wouldn't be mad at it. I still want them to go after a running back in the draft, though.
Yeah. Like I think Williams is totally fine. Yeah. That's a nice recipe if he's your 2. I mean, on the Packers, he's kind of that 3.
He had a productive season.
At times.
Yeah.
You know, because they rotated their backs crazy. With Dillon, they would bring in they'd have drives where they'd have 3 different third down backs, despite the fact that Aaron Jones was one of the best backs in the league. That was just their scheme.
Yeah, the zone blocking and all that. But Steph, you bring up a good point about Jonnu and Cam utilizing tight ends, especially with the diminished arm talent after the shoulder injury. I think if they could put a better receiving core around Cam. Jacoby Myers had like somewhat of a breakout season, but after that, it fell off a cliff in that wide receiver room. If they can somehow figure out, how to get N'Keal Harry to be a first-round pick, and maybe draft a little better at the position, or see what free agents are out there. I'm not sure their cap situation at the moment, but they can be better than last year. I just don't see.
Yeah, go ahead, finish your sentence.
No, I just don't see. Unless they make significant moves, I don't see the offense improving that much.
I agree. And I think, listen, I know, so it is tough because I'll be the first one to say, like, the Pats, what they put around Cam has been minimal. At the same time, I think time has come with Cam Newton. I think this was a move where they had nobody else to sign.
Yeah.
And I think it was the right move. Don't get me wrong. I don't think they should have let him walk if they were going to, have Brian Hoyer start. That would have been ridiculous. But at this point in his career, I think it's the days as a starter for Cam Newton have kind of faded.
I think he still has a little bit left in the tank. It's not a lot. He has enough to be a serviceable starter, but he's not going to be MVP Cam,
Right. I know. I don't mean this. I don't mean this to take a shot at Cam Newton because I'm not trying to do that.
Here it is. He's taking a shot.
No.
It's coming.
No, I'm not.
I'm
not.
I feel it.
I'm just asking a question.
I feel it in my bones.
Do you think that he is a top 25 quarterback right now?
In the NFL?
Yes. No, in the CFL.
I didn't know if you were talking about top 25 all time or top 25. Yeah,
Are we kidding?
You weren't very clear.
Is he a top 25 quarterback right now all time? He's not even a Hall of Famer. Not a knock on Cam.
He's borderline.
No, not even close.
He's borderline.
The numbers are not even there. Not even close.
Let's not get sidetracked, though.
Yeah.
The numbers, the only person that I've heard say he's a Hall of Famer is Cleo.
No, because what you do a lot of times, and you don't realize you do it, you only focus on the passing stats, even though the position has evolved. And he's done things that no other quarterback has done.
Absolutely.
Learning the football. So you can't discount that just because you feel he's not an elite quarterback. You can't do that.
It's not discounting that, but when a guy says
that's exactly what you did. You said it's not even close. You're discounting it.
He had 3 good seasons in his entire career. 3 very good. 3 honestly not very good. He had 1 very, very good. I'll call it a great season. The MVP season was a great season. But then he had 2 decent above average seasons. Aside from 1 season, he was a top 5 quarterback 1 year. Otherwise, you would see him rank from top 15. Maybe he had a couple top 10 year after that. But this is not a guy who was consistently good. I'm sorry. His rushing stats were consistently good.
You are looking at it from a very micro perspective instead of macro perspective because you're like, he wasn't that good of a passer. But the point is,
I didn't say that. I said he didn't put up great numbers.
Yeah, it looks like we got to hit the break. But coming back into break, we're going to finish this.
All right, that sounds good. We'll finish this, and then we'll get on to just to give the listeners somewhat of a layout. We're going to get into some more NFL free agency. We're going to get into some baseball spring training recap, and then at the end, we're going to get into two-way players. We had a nice conversation with shout out to Ralphie on the A's yesterday. We had a nice conversation with him regarding two-way players and their fate in the MLB. Stick around. You're listening to Smoke and Mirrors here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is Smoke and Mirror on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
All right, welcome back to Smoke and Mirrors here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm your host, Declan Krogman, alongside Greg and Stephen Polius. As always, presented by the Sports Hit List. It is 1:26 here on Monday, March 15th, and we're going to wrap up a little NFL free agency here before getting into some baseball. So, Greg, I'd love to hear some of the questions you want to get into. You're muted again. Oh my God. What is going on with us?
Make sure when we come from break, when we in break, I'm not talking, so nobody hears me over the commercials.
Yeah, so maybe that's why I like break so much.
But what was I gonna say?
I hate break. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Cam talk, that sounds like it could be a segment all on its own. So we're gonna table that debate.
I'm with it.
For a segment in the future. Is Cam Newton a Hall of Famer?
Oh, that's the debate?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we were just talking about.
That's what the conversation was.
All right, well, that's fine. All right, let's go with that then.
But in terms of NFL free agency, we are both, my brother and I, we're Jets fans. You're a Giant fan. What are some key free agents that you would look for your respective team to sign during this period?
Steph, you want to go ahead?
No, you can go first, man. You can definitely go first. I'll yield to you as a Giants fan.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate that. So I think it's really tough, and I was saying for you to go first because I feel like the Jets free agency, not that it's more pivotal, but in a way it kind of seems like it could be more of a stepping stone, setting the table for what this franchise is going to be, assuming they draft a new quarterback. But right now for the Giants, we really need to get if Dalvin Tomlinson is really heading out, that's unfortunate. We got to re-up him. Got to get him back. I believe he's a free agent now. Got to bring him back somehow, some way. All right, some way, somehow, whatever.
I just saw something where Leo Williams is giving you guys a hard time. How do you feel about that?
I don't buy it necessarily. I think that's a lot of smoke and mirrors. Haha. But I think any player. I was almost going to say quarterback because you see it happen with Dak a couple times. Any player that gets franchise tagged is never really going to be happy about it. You want to get re-upped for long term. So I believe that he wouldn't be too happy about it, but giving them a hard time. I mean, they have time to, renegotiate a deal. Otherwise they'll have another year with him and then try to figure stuff out next winter. I'm not too worried about it. But of course I think Leonard Williams is pissed, but I don't think it's as big of a deal as everyone is making it out to be. It's just the natural, okay, he got franchise tagged, he's mad kind of deal.
Before we get to the Jets, Steph, Sean Kiernan is as most Giant fans, I'm sure, are pissed off about Zeitler. Zeitler,
yeah,
signing with the Ravens, which I think is going to do wonders for J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
I think so. Game. Yeah, here's my thing. First of all, going back to Zeitler, I'm not mad that the Ravens signed him. Like, I don't care. But I'm mad that he's gone, obviously. But I'm more mad that the Giants friggin' released him. He's the best offensive lineman they had, right? And I know he had a decent-sized contract, but you could have just chopped Solder down or make up some more room. There's no reason for a team that has turned the corner and is now going to try to contend for the division next year is going to release their best offensive lineman when we saw a series against the Ravens, and this is just a nice little sample size, where Daniel Jones got sacked 3 times in a row and had, on average, 1.7 seconds to pass on that entire drive. So
hold on. You said something that kind of just like made me spin a bit. You said contend for the division. Now, if Dak Prescott is healthy, do you think the Giants have a legitimate shot at winning the division?
Yes, and here's why. We saw Dallas last year. When Dak, and this is not a knock on Dak, this is more of a knock on Dallas's defense, which I've not really seen improve at all. They were 1-3 going into that Week 5 game against the Giants, where Dak got hurt. I believe that's correct. They weren't 2-2. They were 1-3. I'm like 90. Yeah, I would say I'm 100% sure. They were 1-3. This is a team that was not winning with him, and I think that's why Reynal wanted Andy Dalton to start. So
imagine that now, like going back and looking on a statement like that.
Ridiculous take.
Yeah, and he still didn't want to pay Dak. But shout out to Ray. We love Ray. He had some great comments on that.
Here's my thing. Even with Dallas's defense, right, being in question, their offense is light years ahead of the Giants, who struggle to score even 20 points a game. So how can you so confidently say they're going to granted the division is bad, but how can you so confidently say they're going to contend for the division? And they have shown nothing of the sort.
First of all,
especially with DJ on the center.
First of all, that's not really why they would have an issue, but that is part of it. Listen, I didn't say they were going to win the division. I just said they would contend for the division. They contended for the division this year because it was so bad, and they went 6-10. They'll be better than 6-10. I see them as a 7-9, 8-8 football team.
It depends on what you guys do in the draft. That 11th pick is going to be very crucial.
That's another thing. If they come around and get your boy Kyle Pitts, or if they find a way to get Smith, I don't think Devonta Smith is going to be available. I don't really believe that he's going to slide that far. I don't care about his size being like an issue. Or if they get, a Waddle or whoever, they get an offensive, weapon, a target. I think that can definitely be a big deal for them. And even Washington, like if Washington goes with Taylor Heineke, I think he played great, but we also saw one game. So that might not be where, unless they, I could see them trading for Sam Darnold or really making.
They're apparently one of the teams that are inquired. But you're still not off the hook. You're still not off the hook here.
Go ahead.
And this is not the Lamar Dak debate, but you yourself did say that Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson.
Absolutely.
So and Lamar Jackson also in a tougher division has led his team to the playoffs. So what you're telling me is that the team with the better quarterback, in your estimation, is not going to contend for the division because of their defense, but the Giants can contend. That's what you're saying. Well, correct me if I'm wrong.
Sure. Let me explain. First of all, the reason the Ravens went to the playoffs this year was because of their defense. It was number 2 overall in the league. First off. Second off, they didn't win the division this year, so I don't care how tough the division was. What did they go, 10-6? Is that right?
What do you mean?
I'm just saying
they went 10-6. The fact that they were 10-6 and still made the playoffs in a division that had 3 10-win teams, like that's a big deal.
3 10-win teams. So same as for the Browns, the Steelers. They went there. I know it's a tough division, but more so, they're not contending with the division. If they're not winning the division, they're contending with the conference. They were a wild card team.
But if your team can't even contend within the division, how the hell can they contend for the conference? You're not making sense right now.
No, they weren't winning the division. They were contending for a wild card.
Oh, thank you.
Speedy let us know. Yeah,
Ravens were 11-5.
Okay, 11-5.
Thanks, Speedy.
Appreciate you.
Sure. That's fine. Oh, wow. Wow, 26 touchdowns from Lamar Jackson this year. He was sure great.
So this is where you expose yourself.
I'm not exposing myself.
Yes, you are. Steph, you want to jump in here?
Well,
can I bring Chris Williamson on to tell you guys as well, or do we want to even it up? No, we don't.
Well, no. What I was gonna say is, while I do find this debate riveting, it's something we can cover. I want us to just to finish up NFL free agency because I was really looking forward to getting into baseball.
Copy.
So I know we want to talk about Dak. We want to talk about Lamar. It's something that needs to be discussed on here because Declan.
We can talk about the regression another time.
It needs its own time.
Things like that right there. We're gonna discuss all of that because you're out of pocket. You're out of pocket.
You know why? Because you got a little temper to you.
No. Because you are biased and you can't admit you're biased. You are absolutely 100%. 100%.
Hey, save that. We'll actually cut that. We'll clip it, and then for Friday's show or even next week's show, we can use that soundbite.
All right. I mean, I hope I'm a little biased to my team if I'm 18. Like, let's just be real for a second. I could drink.
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Get out of here.
Right.
You can be objective at 18.
Yeah, I don't want to hear that. That's nonsense. Get out of here with that.
First of all, Daniel Jones, I put him in the same category as being a top 25 quarterback as Cam Newton.
Anywho, we have footage of you having Daniel Jones way higher than that, so I don't want to hear it. We're not doing this. We're not having revisionist history. We're not doing that.
No revisionist history. You kidding? So we also have footage quickly. No, we also have footage of week 17 when I said he would throw for 240, 2 touchdowns, and a pick.
No one cares about Daniel Jones. You're the only person who cares about Daniel Jones.
I don't. I care about my team. They're going to contend for the division this year. It's a weak-ass division. There's no way around it. Dallas was terrible with Dak last year anyway. They went 1-3.
So
go ahead. 8-8 the year before.
To finish up what we were talking about the Giants and the Jets.
Yeah,
I believe that the Jets, as all Jets fans know, skill positions has been a weakness for the longest period of time where we have Sam Darnold hasn't had weapons. So going out there and getting those weapons in free agency, since they have the cap space for it. I'm a big fan of Chris Carson. He's a hard runner. He's someone that I would love to see. Yes, he's not the most talented on that. Obviously, Aaron Jones is gone now, but Chris Carson is someone that is an amazing talent. Even if it was Leonard Fournette that they went after, he was looking well, running really well in the playoffs. The Jets just haven't had a consistent run game. And then on the corners, on the outside there for the wide receivers, I like John Brown a lot. That's someone to me that's easy. It's someone you can easily acquire. You don't have to spend too much to get him.
I think
he's a burner.
He could take the top of defense.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you? But with John Brown, do you feel like that takes snaps away from Denzel Mims?
I don't truly. I mean, I truly believe that that Denzel Mims and John Brown could end up getting having time on the field together. I like John Brown. I'm just saying that's more of an achievable goal if they weren't to maybe save a little bit at wide receiver, still get some talent. But getting a Juju, because Juju to me is still a top end wide receiver. Top of this. So him and Corey Davis to me are I would take Corey Davis.
I would love Corey Davis.
I would take Corey Davis over Juju.
That would be
yeah. But either one, if we got either one, I would much rather them over John Brown. But if you're looking to, maybe save and still get some talent, John Brown is there for me. And I like the skill set he has. He did really well playing number 2 out there to Stephon Diggs. The Jets have the options. They have the money they can spend. They need to put talent around Sam Darnold if they're going to stay with Sam. Even if they don't, and they do go
regardless. I think
exactly. They still need to. They still need the talent. They haven't really spent the capital. I think they need to in order to improve their team and give their quarterback a chance to win a game.
I think a lot of people are saying that the Giants should get Kenny Golladay, and I'm with you on that. I think that the better option, even for the New York Giants, would be a guy like Corey Davis. And is it okay if I answer a question in the comments? Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay.
Go ahead for it. Just don't be too long-winded with it.
I will literally say this so quickly. First of all, Eric Siegel, our boy, he wasn't here last week, and I was very scared. I almost put out an Amber Alert. He's so into the comments. He's such a loyal fan. But here's what I'll say. He asked me, does Daniel Jones have to take a monumental step up in year 3 to live up to the expectations, or at least my expectations and the Giants' expectations as a whole? Absolutely. He had a fine year 1, fumbling problem, but as a passer, he was fine. Year 2, he was horrible. I don't care if he didn't have enough, if there was injuries with the weapons, if the offensive line was bad, if Jason Incompetent Garrett was his offensive coordinator. It's the same like we said with Cam Newton. While Cam Newton was not great for the majority of the 2020 season with that supporting cast, with the Pats having no whatever line was not necessarily the hugest problem on the team. There was a receiver room and whatever. It's the same thing with Daniel Jones. If he has another year even close to last year, it's over. You're looking for a quarterback in his 4th year. We got 2 minutes. Let's finish up NFL free agency before we get into baseball on segment 3. In the last segment, excuse me.
As far as me as a Jet fan, my
get to the point, Manny, but go ahead.
my 2 top choices at receiver would probably be Golladay and Corey Davis, but I would be okay if we didn't get Golladay. And you have Juju as a number 2, like Garrison said in the comments. He said, Juju's a number 2 at best. But I think the number 1 target in free agency needs to be Joe Thuney. That needs to be our number 1 target. On that one, a solid interior lineman that you can put on either side, and he can really help our run game. And in the draft, you could then focus even more on the skill position players if you address the offensive line through free agency.
No way. Justin Reed is in here saying that.
You did that. You yourself. You did that.
Whatever. It was all about pronunciation. They couldn't pronounce my name. All right, that's fine. Shout out to Eric. He liked my answer to whatever to his question. Before we get to break, also, I'm gonna have to agree with Manny. Shout out to your barber, Greg. That cut is fire. I don't even.
That's not a cut. That's my wife. My wife twisted my hair.
Wife.
I like
shout out to
my wife.
It works. So shout out to your wife, obviously.
Also, my wife been my COVID barber, so shout out to her.
I was about to say, COVID had you looking lit because of her.
Yeah, man. It's a move. Anyway, let's get to commercial break. We'll be right back with some baseball talk. So all y'all stick around right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is Smoke and Mirrors. I'm Declan Krogman, Greg Polius, and Stefan Polius. We'll see you in just a bit.
This is Smoke and Mirrors on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome, everyone, here to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're watching Smoke and Mirrors or listening to Smoke and Mirrors. You could be listening on or watching on Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, and the TuneIn Radio app, and, of course, the Worldwide Sports Radio app. As the great CJ DeSimone says, pretty much anywhere you can find us. We're going to get into some baseball here, and I'd let my boy Greg lead off, even though Steph led off yesterday on the field.
I mean, that's Steph's job, though. Steph is the leadoff hitter, so that's what he does.
Table setter.
OBP lit.
Damn straight.
But this is easily my favorite time of year. And, not only playing, but just watching the game of baseball. And one of the things that I think I miss the most is just hearing the sound of the crack of a wood bat in spring training. Like that sound, it just makes me feel like, okay, we're back.
You know what sound I kind of like better? I like whizzing a two-seam right by a guy. Started on the outside corner and letting it go right to the knees. That's my favorite.
I'm going to go with the wood bat here. But
I'll agree with that.
Yeah. So, spring training is well underway. Opening day's a couple weeks away. Are there any teams that you think are going to be a surprise in the league this year?
Steph, you want to take this?
Yeah, I haven't been able to watch all the teams for spring training. I've mostly focused on the Mets and seeing how my guys are doing, and really in the early goings, it's what you expect from spring training. Like you're going to see some guys struggle, like Francisco Lindor, who's a major acquisition of ours, has not hit well in spring training. But it's just that like you're not expecting that to carry on into the season. It's really getting back, getting the feet wet, getting acclimated, getting back into routines. I do believe that just being like by looking at the Mets, looking at like some of the players, especially DeGrom, how he pitched, how he's just been on from jump. The Mets are already expected to be an amazing team. I do believe that they're going to struggle, as they always do. Might start out the gate hot and struggle, from thereafter. But I think they bounce back a lot quicker. They have really good depth. I just see the energy there and the chemistry they have being that boon that they need to get through those tough times. And obviously the talent. The bullpen. It looks like there's that potential to bounce back. Needing Betances and Familia to be better pitchers than they have been. And in the early going, seeing some of that there. But I look at the Mets as being a strong contender with the current roster they have.
Okay. What about you, Deck?
I think that I totally agree with him. I think that the Mets are obviously going to be contender. I don't want to say obviously because it's baseball. But I think in terms of the expectations, I think that the Mets can totally be a contender. I see them as the wild card team. I think you're going to host a wild card game at Citi Field this year. I just think the Braves, coming off the year they had, went to the NLCS, and even before the shortened season, they were in the playoffs in 2019. I just don't see them not winning that division. But again, anything's possible. In 2015, they had the Nats projected to win the division far and easy, and they won 83 games, and the Mets won with that pivotal series in August, I believe. It was the first couple days of August. So I think that you're going to see a lot of interesting teams. It's going to be the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to win the World Series this year. Just kidding. They're probably the worst team in baseball. But I'm not sure who my sleeper team is. I like the Marlins this year on a rebound. I mean, not necessarily a rebound, but a rebound in a full year, if that makes sense. I think the Angels can make some surprising noise as well.
I'm going to agree with Manny in the comments. I think it's the White Sox. I think the White Sox have a world of talent that that regular fans haven't been exposed to yet, and you're gonna start hearing some names. We've heard the Yon Mancados and all that, but they have a couple arms. I can't remember the names off the top of my head at the current
Lucas
moment.
Giolito, who's that guy? Who's the guy who they drafted like this year? He comes out of the pen. He throws 102. He's a lefty.
But I can't remember names because there's so many. But yeah, Lewis Robert. There we go. He's another stud.
Oh yeah,
outfielder. He's a stud.
He's a stud. Like
Eloy Jimenez.
They've done a really good job in terms of player development, and they're actually going to be a very exciting team to watch. But just kind of not shifting gears from spring training, but still talking baseball, right? In Little League, in high school, in college even, you see a lot of dual position players. It's commonplace. I was even a dual position player in college. Like it's almost expected at times, but you don't see it in professional baseball. But over the last 5 to 7 years, we've seen a kind of shift, and the biggest name of that being Shohei Ohtani. Declan mentioned earlier in the segment, we had a teammate that we were having a debate while we were tossing yesterday about Shohei Ohtani, and I think Ohtani has the ability to be elite on both sides of the ball. But however, our friend Ralphie doesn't think so, because he thinks the workload of each position is too demanding. Because what a lot of regular fans don't realize is, when you're practicing or before games prior to, if you're in a pitching group, you're long tossing with that pitching group. You're running with that pitching group. If you're in a hitting group, you're shagging flies with that particular hitting group. You're in a batting practice group. So he thinks that workload is too much on Ohtani to be an elite player. He feels he has to choose one. Where do you guys fall on this side of the debate?
Declan, you can take this one.
Sure. I'll agree with you, Greg. I think we're completely on the same page. Also, speaking of your teammates and guys we hung out with yesterday, shout out to Justin Ruiz. Garrett Crochet is the lefty reliever I was thinking of. And also shout out to Garrison, because Michael Kopech is also a key arm if they can get mini Noah Syndergaard over there to get everything straightened out. Yeah. So I do think that position players that are dual position players, two-way guys, are great for the game of baseball. I think we see guys like Shohei Ohtani is doing it best. Now, I think there's a significant drop. I think Brendan McKay, he's a pitcher and a first baseman for the Tampa Bay Rays. I think they're going to limit him to either pitching or playing first base. And I think Michael Lorenzen kind of came on as a two-way late in his career, where he can play the outfield. He's diving for catches. He's tracking balls great.
Very small sample size, though, as far as
this is where I'm
what
going
he's doing on the offensive side.
Yes, absolutely. He hits bombs, but that seems to be it. And he's hit some crazy bombs. He had 3 home runs in the same weekend, and just as a pinch hitter. I believe that was 2019 or 2018. He could start, he can relieve, but I think at some point they're just going to make him a PO, which is crazy to use the word PO at the major league level, by the way. That's a nice way to see how the game has kind of changed a little bit. Mm-hmm. They're going to make him a PO and use him in some pinch hitting situations or emergency outfielding situations.
Go ahead, Steph.
Well, I was going to say that for the most part, I do agree with Ralphie, right? Because Shohei is, to me, a outlier. It's hard to imagine that you have a player that can be elite at both sides of the ball. It's very demanding, and there are unicorns. There are people that come in and perform much better than the expectation, much better than well above average. We haven't even seen a second player truly do that, because Brandon McKay has not done that. He didn't pitch very well in his first season, and he was hurt obviously in 2020. So 2019 wasn't a great year for him, even at the plate. So to expect them to do both, to do well on both sides, not just well, but to be top in the league on both sides is a little hard. I do believe that they can be, they could contribute on both sides of the ball and be, a game changer in that sense. But to say that the elite level is very hard. And honestly, I think it caters more towards the American League, because if you have to go and play a position instead of just being a DH, which, Shohei has the ability to do, it's even harder to go out there and also not be a defensive liability at the end of the day, because you have to go and pitch. And when you're not pitching, if you have to go and play a position on your days where you're supposed to be resting or, going through your routines, it is, there's no precedent for it. I don't think it's impossible. I just believe that what Ralphie is saying by having an elite on both sides is very difficult. Molds get broken all the time. We're just not at that point. Shohei's the closest we have, and we still need to see it. In his first season, you have him at 285. I think before he got hurt, he had about 60-something RBIs, and he was doing on that pace in 22 home runs. On that pace, if he finished the season, we're talking about elite numbers. And as a pitcher, still elite. His K per nine was somewhere, I think, around 11, and at a 3.31 ERA, which isn't elite, but it's still good. I think that he's shown us enough to hope that mold could be broken, but it's still not to the point where you can expect other players to come in and do that same thing.
He's got to stay healthy. Go ahead,
of course.
Yeah. So one thing Ralphie did also mention is that Japanese players struggle with the pitching workload when they come over, which is accurate. But
I've heard that.
What I will say in terms of why I think he can be elite on both sides is his stuff as far as a pitcher as pitching goes, right? He has elite stuff, right? From his fastball to all his offs, he has plus off speed stuff and he has, I think, 3 or 4 legit out pitches that can really, do damage. Here's where I will agree with you and Ralphie though, in terms of workload, because even as a dual position player in college, it's a lot. And even in college, you're not working as much as a major leaguer to hit major league pitching. Like mentally, that's a lot, just to
you're
mentally prepare
too. It's a little bit different, but
and you're But another thing that I think that I think people don't realize, not to cut you off, Greg, you get right back to it. But just going off, like, people don't understand, like, just because somebody can play the position decently or can hit decently in the MLB and can also pitch does not mean that the best option for the team and the best option for them is to be a dual two-way player.
I think in Ohtani's case, though, it works best for the Angels. And Garrison said something in the comments that I agree with. He can excel, when healthy at the plate. But I think he can be an even better hitter if he's not a starter. He comes out the pen at the back end. I think you make him a late inning guy.
Oh yeah,
he can dominate, and I think that he could be elite on. So like you have a guy like Hunter Green in the Reds organization who's a number 1, a number 2 overall draft pick.
Yeah, number 2 overall. I think he went behind Casey Mize for the
time. And he in high school, he threw 101 off the mound and he hit absolute bombs, but he couldn't hit a major league fastball when he got that little cup of coffee. So a guy like that, you realize he can't cut it on both sides. So he's just going to be a guy that comes out the pen. I'm fine with that. But when you have somebody of Ohtani's talent, any coach would tell you, you find a way to make it work. You find a way.
Yes, true. What I will say in response to that, though, is talent and stuff only gets you but so far, right? And look at a guy like Jacob deGrom. DeGrom has become elite, but if you hear his interviews, how he speaks about his routine, it's not just his stuff, it's his preparation that he does in between his starts, and trying to like repeat his mechanics. Because yes, he might have a devastating slider, but you misplace a devastating slider and these major league hitters will make you pay for it. So your good stuff can still fail you if you don't have the preparation. So and if we're talking about elite, Jacob deGrom being the elite of the elite, I do believe that his Ohtani stuff isn't going to be the saving grace for him. He's still going to, like, the execution when he has to pitch every 5 days could end up being a problem when he's focusing on, his ABs, or if he ended up playing the field, or any other two-way player playing the field. Now, execution to me would be where the question mark is, because that pitching aspect of it, hitting obviously very difficult, but the pitching aspect to maintain the elite level would be
against
very
major
difficult.
league hitters.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the point I will concede to you guys in terms of him being a starter, and he could be a very good starter.
Yeah.
But I think he could be a top closer in the game, honestly.
See, that's different though. If you approach it that way and he doesn't have to go and turn over a lineup 2 or 3 times, that is very different. I believe that if we had a closer or even a reliever, just a reliever that was a two-way player.
Like a setup man, like eighth.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly.
Like Michael
exactly.
Lorenzen when he wasn't starting.
Yes, and I want to talk about him real quickly too in a little bit. But if it was a reliever instead of a starter, I believe that is more obtainable for elite. And again, I do believe that you can have more two-way players in this game that aren't necessarily on the elite level, but still very good, still being able to contribute as a pitcher and as a hitter, like helping their team either way. And when it comes to Lorenzo, it almost seems Lorenzen, sorry, it almost seems as if it's more about the flexibility with position and strategy, right? Because with the new MLB rules, you have, I think it's 13 pitchers they're allowed to carry, or 12. And but then you're allowed to have at least one two-way player. So that gives you flexibility now. So if you're saying, well, I want to carry my 12 guys, but I want another arm, like we need another arm. Your two-way guy is now that person. Whether you can take them off the bench to hit or to pitch. So the flexibility and the strategy aspect of it, I think, is what Cincinnati's going for and what other teams will eventually move to, because that strategy will help you and can be the decisive blow to another team, your opponent, when it comes down to like who you're going to throw, the arms you have, and the bats you have off the bench.
Yeah, I see that. And I think that's what plays into like more guys getting drafted with the ability to play both ways, because we see it a lot, especially when you watch the College World Series, which to me is one of the most underrated sporting events in the country, to be honest. And that's my bias speaking. As
doesn't
a
get the
baseball player.
airtime.
It doesn't. But it's really fun, and you see the major leaguers of tomorrow playing today. But that aside, there are several guys you see coming out the pen throwing 94, 95 that were the starting center fielder in the game. Declan, who was the Giants player? He was a defensive back that got hurt a couple years ago. That was a pitcher for LSU. Garrison, you might know this too, being a big LSU guy. He's a defensive back, and he was, and he ended up getting hurt. I think he got in a car accident. He got hurt, and he could never play again. But he was a reliever for LSU that threw like 94, 95, and he was a starting outfielder that can hit. And he got drafted in both baseball and the NFL, and he chose the NFL. But if he chose baseball, he wouldn't have been able. He would have to pick. Now, guys don't have to. The organization doesn't have to pick. They can say, "Hey, we like what you could do on both sides of the ball. Let's kind of work at it." And I think that's really good for the game and can help bring fans into our segment a few weeks ago about how to grow the brand.
Was it?
I think it was Chad Jones.
Chad Jones.
Yeah,
that's that realization at the same time.
That was pretty fire.
Serendipitous.
Did we get it in the comments or no?
Yeah, many.
Okay. I agree with that. I think ultimately the more two-way players that are in the league, it will improve the game. It makes it more fun. It makes it more entertaining. And again, it gives another wrinkle for a team. And the development part is a really hard part, though, right? Because look at Hunter Green; he could have hit a major league fastball.
And he was really good in college too.
Yes, and they will thrive in college.
High school.
Yeah, they will thrive in the lower level. Whether it's high school, or college, but sometimes getting into the minors is when you get weeded out, right? Let me just finish. Where you play two positions, or you were a pitcher and you were a fielder, you didn't have the opportunity necessarily to go in and prove. They might just look at the tape and say, well, you're this now, and go do it. Now they'll see it out. It's how they develop. And I don't know if they necessarily will have, the mechanisms or the processes in place to develop these players the best way they can. It's still very much a, feel it out. It's going to be trial and error, which means you're going to miss out on some really great talent. But I think as long as they're dedicating time and effort to developing two-way players and understanding what's best to make them thrive, you will have an improved sport. Like baseball will be better for it.
I agree. So that we could definitely agree on. One thing I will say about Hunter Green and not being able to hit a major league fastball, the learning curve when you get drafted out of high school to be a pro hitter and you skip over college is so great. That's why you see some guys get drafted at 18, like a Brandon Nimmo, and they don't make big leagues till 23, 24. They're spending 6-7 years in the minor leagues because that learning curve is so steep. Yeah. And as opposed to a guy like Ohtani who was hitting against professional pitching in Japan.
Even a guy like Conforto who went to Oregon State and then spent maybe a year and a half in the minors.
Yeah, the learning curve is very different from college hitters and high school hitters to the pros. But I do think at the end of the day that more dual position players with specified roles, not so much kind of like Ohtani, how he's sometimes a starter, sometimes a DH, a more refined, like, this is what you do on your off day. This is what you do when you're not hitting, that type of thing. It will definitely be better for the game, Steph. And Deck, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I would say let's get to our final thoughts as we head out. I think both. I mean, none of this was a debate, but you guys had, somewhat. You agreed on. I think we all agreed on some aspects and disagreed on others. I would say in total, if a guy can stay healthy and do it, I'm all for it. But right now, I think that the two-way player movement is more of an Ohtani sticking out than a potential for the next 5-10 years. We're going to see like 80 of these guys in the league. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Although I'd love for that to happen. I just don't see it going as polarizing as it possibly should.
Yeah, I think that teams will dedicate more of their resources, their money, their resources to developing the two-way players. One is just a strategy, but two, it's just it's flexibility. It's good for the game, but it's also going to be good for these teams. And there are enough players that at the collegiate level or even a high school level that are playing two positions that they can learn to better develop them and bring them into the league. Shohei being obviously the outlier again in that he is the one that we've seen be successful, but in time, a couple years from now, I think you'll see a few more come up through the minor league system. I ultimately think it's going to be more popular or a little bit more feasible in the American League if by this time or a few years from now the DH doesn't get added to the NL, but the DH will be any American League team will be able to utilize the two-way player more so than the NL, and that might even be depending how successful that is. You might see that they'll change for the DH and the NL for that reason. That might be the final nail in the coffin.
I think that's a great point.
Yeah, so ultimately, I think it's great for baseball. It's great for not just for the fans. It's great for the teams. It's something we can push for. As far as like having elite players on it, it's a little. I don't believe that it's going to be as common, but you can still have very good players on both sides of the ball.
All right, so we're good, guys.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. Great show, gents. Always a pleasure, as we know. Gents, that was so weird. I'm never saying that again.
Just keep going.
Gents is cool. Absolutely. I like gents. I'm a gentleman.
All right, let's get out of here, guys. You've been listening to Smoke and Mirrors here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, as always, presented by the Sports Hit List. You can check out many of the great shows on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network by going here on Facebook Live, Twitter, and, of course, the TuneIn Radio app and the Worldwide Sports Radio Network app. As for Smoke and Mirrors, I'm Declan Krogman, Greg Polius, Stefan Polius. We out. We'll see you next time. See you on Friday.
Have a good one, y'all.